And Paulus, this is your very, very first Startup Grind event, right?
Yes.
So are you nervous or are you happy about how it's going on?
Well, I was really anxious to start this, excited just like 5 minutes ago, before all this challenges with, joining Betty and being here. So it's probably, got frustrated about all those challenges, but nevertheless, I'm, really looking forward to, get Rytis speaking, telling about himself and all about his experience. Because to be frank, I really believe, that he has a lot to share. And this should be the right night for that. Probably let's start from very, very beginning, So you, according to your bio, you are like 10 years already in startups and, working on the startup. Pretty successful one on Omnisend. I hear you just hired your 100th or 101st employee, right?
Yeah, that was a celebration last week, 100th team member. And this week we already have 101, and there are a few more contracts signed, and we're waiting for more people to come in the coming weeks. Yeah, so that was a great milestone.
So I think everybody's curious to know, how did you get there? Where do we start? I'm thinking maybe studies. What were you studying? Where do people are taught to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Where does all of that start, and where all the journey starts? So somewhere from the very beginning, usually it's somewhere very, very in the past. And yeah, I believe it all started actually in my school years, if talking. So I was, since the 9th grade, that means when you are around like 13, 14, I kind of became curious and really actively participating in non-governmental activities, which trained me a lot about organizing things, about managing things, etc. And I was not the best school kid in terms of what school kids meant to be, then go to lessons and have a good grades. So that was not the case for me. But there were a few subjects which I was like super interested in them. It was kind of history and languages, etc. And I kind of like, I have graduated my secondary school, and I have entered political sciences. So I meant to be like, yeah. So like by education, I'm a professional, like a politician or political scientist, to comment all the elections or to be the member of parliament. Yeah, but that's where kind of my business journey started. Actually, the friend of mine, the fellow of mine, whom I met in my non-governmental activities in some people organizations. He kind of invited me to co-found the business, which actually was a great adventure. I had no clue of how does business look like. I was 20 at that time, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, 20, and that was your first company, right? You founded your first company.
Yeah, I have co-founded. I was the small shareholder there. He was the main driver, but still that was already kind of partly mine business. And then there was a director there, so running all the daily operations, etc. So learned a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes, but I believe that's where you start, and that's how you.
Which year was that? You mentioned 2 years
old. Yeah. So so I'm 37 now, so like 17 years ago. So it's been a journey. Yeah, it's been a journey.
So, and what was the company doing, and how long did you work? Kind of,
for a couple of years, maybe 3 years, and we kind of exited. We sold that company, but that was what to be called like probably like the far exit. It was not it was not like, I wouldn't call it a success story, but it was just self-employment business, and we kind of sold to get our investment back, but not really gain the profit back. So it was like, what was it doing? It was the thing which does not exist, and it's a very great example of the digital economy. So before the smartphones, there were feature phones where colorful background was the case, or like melody. Instead of having a default ringtone, you could download a melody of favorite song, etc. And we were making those things, and like everybody could send SMS, and for €1 or Litmus in Lithuania at that time, you can purchase that melody or screensaver, which is colorful. And you are fancy.
Very, very up-to-date business at that time, right?
Yeah, Nokia was kind of a global leader of mobile phones at that time, and they kind of got stuck in that period. So
okay, so that was your first business, right? And you said it was about
correct.
2 years, and you exited selling this business just to recover your investments.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I wouldn't call it success. No, I don't think so. I mean, there is no need for such a services anymore for quite many years. So I believe that company kind of lasted for maybe 2 to 3 more years, and of course, then marketing has changed, and smartphones were introduced into the market, and after some years, and there was no need for such services anymore.
Okay, in regards to Nokia, just a small remark. I hear they are kind of coming back because they're developing a communication system for NASA for the moon station.
So, but I think it's a very good example of like Nokia as a brand lives, and it was acquired by completely different people, and they're selling smartphones currently. And the Nokia as an organization is still there as well. And then the Nokia networks, they do produce and sell like infrastructure level equipment, and I would say they're a rather successful company, but not as big, not as famous as it used to be back in the days, and they're not in the B2C field anymore. So it's just an example of a great transformation, which I believe in the modern businesses. That's just like the process which you have to go. Either you transform yourself like every year, every 5 years, or the market will transform you, and either you're gonna survive, or you're gonna die, or I mean, all the options are there. So
all the options are there, right? Okay, so that was 2 years of your life. What was next? Was there another startup right away, or?
So that was kind of like that I believe I kind of went to more traditional businesses, and since then actually I have never been employed. I used to run my own business. Different kind of. I was in a bit of a financial consulting business, in digital marketing business, and once kind of startup as a concept really got my attention, and I was really intrigued by this way of doing business. Like startup, I would define startup as a company which has global ambitions, and it's global, and has ambitions of a rapid growth. So so I believe it was like 10 years ago, so maybe even a bit more, 11 years ago. So then kind of, okay, we should be launching a startup. And that was my first startup attempt. And as you have mentioned, so Omnisend is a third attempt. So two attempts have failed. And I'm really happy to talk about those failures and about lessons which I have learned. I believe even 12 years ago, something like that. Yeah. So just traditional. No, it was kind of like my journey was like this, like doing some traditional businesses, earning some money, then investing them or burning them into startup attempt. So so traditional businesses, I mean like consulting. Or Omnisend is a spin-off from digital marketing agency. But digital marketing agency is a local business. You have customers in Lithuania, in the Baltics, somewhere in the region. You just sell human hours. There is no way to like scale it globally and to tens of thousands of customers and tens of millions of revenue.
Okay. So what was that other startup attempt you mentioned?
Yeah, that was Trinex. That was a really crazy idea at that time there are two ideas combined. First one was to sell the postcards, like premium postcards, which were printed on Eco ink with like on Eco paper with Eco ink. And for each postcard sold, we were planting a real living tree in the woods of Lithuania. Although the postcards were sold in the United States, mainly in California. And the second part of it, that every postcard had a unique code which you can register your tree online, and there was and we thought it's going to be kind of a social network of everyone people who love environment and who are conscious about that, etc. It was before Facebook, so but definitely, I mean, any idea of social network was flushed by rise of Facebook, and it didn't last for long.
Okay, so that what happened to this idea? This is what happened to this idea. The Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we made so many mistakes in that, but that's good. We learned so many lessons, which a lot of them I am still applying now. First one is like, as being from Lithuania and like at that time running like rather successful local business, we thought, okay, so now I mean, we can conquer the world as a risk game, but it's not that easy. Just it's not about rolling the dice and having good numbers or not. And like cultural differences. And currently we have office in the United States. We have 16 people working there, etc. So cultural differences do exist, and there are so many things which you don't know once you start such a businesses, and you overinvest in many things. You overcomplicate many things instead of just trying to cut the corners and to really utilize what you already have and what you already know, and trying to make it, to simplify things. You usually complicate, especially once you are younger and before you learn all of those lessons. You just, at least that was my lessons. And just an example, once we started what Omnisend is now, we just took our agency's name that was under the name of Soundest. We didn't invest even in our new branding, which Soundest did not reflect at all what we are doing, marketing automation service. But we just saved some time, a lot of time, and a lot of money for acquiring proper domain, for registering your trademark, etc. And we only did that once we understood that there is a product market fit, and we were already like, I don't know, 20, 30 or so people. We were doing some few millions of revenue, which kind of allowed us to kind of introduce new name, to rebrand, to
so this is actually, pretty opposite what regular startups are doing, right? Because as much as I know, everyone starts with a name, everyone starts with a domain, with office, right?
Yeah. That's right. You waste so much time on that. Much time on it. And just, so my advice for everyone who just starts their venture, doesn't matter if it's kind of a local business or like startup, IT, technology, whatever company with a global ambition, just, to kind of, those are not the most important things. The most important thing is the value which you potentially are creating for our customers. Either it's kind of B2C or B2B. So do you bring the value for our customers? If so, there will be a product market fit, and name doesn't mean anything. I mean, it can mean something, but if there is no need for your service or your product, name will not help you to flourish. That's it.
Can I take a step back? Actually,
Sure.
I'm fascinated by the regional/cultural reference that Rytis brought up, and I'm thinking, is it like, do you feel? I mean, obviously, you look around. I assume you two are in Vilnius, right? So
yes,
right.
Yeah.
So you obviously you look around and you see startups around you. Do you feel the mindset is still local, or like in year 2020 everyone is global? Would they be in from Vilnius or from San Francisco?
Very good question. I would say kind of mindset is global, but the habits are local.
Right.
So how do you think, how you were raised as a kid? What is the local business culture? What do local companies expect from you? It's different. And maybe there's another case as well. We are bootstrapped. So once, at least our lessons, like hiring very experienced people in the United States. And what is kind of difference we're discussing with colleagues as well, and like with the folks who are there, and they know playbooks, and they kind of, in the United States, there is very deep specialization. And it's one of the reasons why if you launch a company in Silicon Valley, you have to raise from the very beginning a bunch of money. to hire specialists to cover all different fields you need to be covered. What usually, at least our journey, or I see you kind of around in the Baltics, as in startups, we have more universal people, but not that in depth. And you cover more, especially at the very beginning. And then you start specializing a bit more. And like, so I kind of find there is a bit more adaptability in Europe than in the United States, just maybe because we have much larger talent pool, and you can find a person who is very good specialist in that narrow specialization. In Europe or in the Baltics, let's say, you have this limitation. You don't have enough people who've been there, done that already. So therefore, we need to be more open-minded, more adaptable, to be kind of more flexible with our competencies, with fields of responsibility and all those things. So it's one of the things which I found out.
But mainly, you're not kind of limited today to any culture or to any country, right? So you can hire anyone.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we do have people. Yeah, we have Lithuanians and not. So kind of all variety of different cultures combined, like people from Morocco, from Ireland, and then.
I mean, but your main market today is US, right? United States.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So kind of the main office is in Vilnius, Lithuania. We have people distributed all over the world. We have another office in Kiev, and then distributed people in the United States in multiple locations, in the UK. In France, and all over the place.
But this did not.
But the main market, but the whole market, revenue-wise, is in the United States. That's correct.
Okay. But this didn't happen over the night, right?
No, it didn't. Yeah.
So how many times did you think you were kind of close to bankruptcy or close to sellout or?
In Omnisend, probably not that many. So we are super lucky here. The beginning it took us like 2 years after the launch of what today I would call MVP, although at that time I thought that we already have a decent product. So it took us around 2 years to get to the break even, as we were willing to bootstrap and we were willing to be a profitable company. So 2 years to find for what our customers are willing to pay us after the launch. And once we found the product market fit, so from there we were just kind of growing, and fingers crossed it was always up. So not too much of a turbulence since then.
Is there interesting story behind it? How did Omnisend come to life? I mean, how did you start that?
So that was very rational, I would say. So my co-founder, Justas, he used to be my customer. Once I was running a digital marketing agency, he had at that time integrated communication PR agency, and they were outsourcing us for certain projects. And that's how we met. We were just, started dating, going to lunch and coffee, and we kind of we saw that we had shared dreams and values, but probably dreams came first. Is really to have some global business, and we have once a week we have Ask Founders Anything session within the team, so everybody could ask any question. And actually this week we received a question. So what we were dreaming about once starting our businesses. So I was dreaming about that one day sun will never set in the offices of our customers. So that was kind of romantic definition of a global business.
Global business, yes, right.
Yeah, where you have customers everywhere and you are serving them 24/7. And Justas had the similar dream. So that's where we kind of rationally start thinking, what can we do? And definitely the only way from Lithuania to launch something like this was a product. A global product, SaaS, which we like to model. And then we started analyzing, okay, so what do we understand? What do we know? And we were, as a digital marketing agency, were serving some of our e-commerce customers. And we saw that, okay, e-commerce customers, they they are unique because we have much more data about their customers, and the entire customer journey of their customers are happening online. So you have so much data, and you can automate so much of marketing. And at that time, we launched. Now we are a marketing automation platform, having email, having text messages, having push notifications, and like robust segmentation, and kind of even partly it's CRM for e-commerce businesses. But at that time, we just launched ESP, email service provider. And at that time, there were a lot of generic email service providers, but no one specializing on e-commerce, utilizing the data to help to automate communication with existing customers, and then really send more relevant messages for our customers. Yeah, so that's how we.
You mean in Lithuania or overall?
No, globally. Yeah, at that time, once we launched, it was 6.5 years ago. Like MailChimp was not focusing. Klaviyo, which are our main competitors today, they were not focusing on e-commerce. There was just a generic ESP. Doesn't matter if you are a startup brand or if you are a school or a group of fellows meeting for fishing, and you need to share information, you used to use exactly the same tools to communicate with your contacts, with your subscribers. Yeah, so that's where we saw the opportunity, and definitely we were not the only ones to see this opportunity. And at that time, just around the same years, many tools like ours been introduced into the market, and that's where competition came.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of a calculation, yeah. What can we do? Okay, looking for opportunities.
What did your partner reply to that? What was his dream? You said you shared, so it was pretty similar.
Yeah. So he told that once he just started his business, he went to his friend's office, which was in the top floor. And then the friend was like really happy. Look, I have rented this office, like, at the age of 20 something, and it's already very impressive. And Mr. said, yes, I do understand. One day I will have entire floor. And like weird enough, the office building from which, that story happened. From that office building, you can see our current home office building in Vilnius. And yeah, we do have the top entire floor now. And
so that was ambition that brought you together, right?
Yeah,
okay,
I believe that those were.
Yeah, but the strange thing is actually something else. I think is different from the regular startup story. Is that you didn't have that idea? It didn't start with the idea. It started with ambition.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. And idea is good, but I see too many, especially like young people, having brilliant ideas and thinking that they have unique idea, and the idea is everything. And there's a lot of if you read kind of books, blog posts about that, idea is everything. I don't believe in that. I disagree completely. Idea is nothing. If you have a brilliant idea, there are thousands of people at the same time having the same idea globally, and only very few of them will start executing, and from those who will start, only few of them, even fewer, will execute it properly. So I'm a strong believer of excellence of execution and implementation, and it's the most important thing, I think. There are just brilliant ideas are really, really exceptional ones, and it happens once in a decade, and the rest is just great execution.
May I dig in back to the cultural/locational thingy? Since, you mentioned that you're in Lithuania, we're in Lithuania, we're doing like this in Lithuania, and I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, do you think this being in an Eastern European country has ever limited you in execution or in capital attraction or in anything? Did this ever limit you anywhere, or did it open up new opportunities instead?
Both. Both. It's limited, and it opened new opportunities. So what did it limit? Even US becoming our home market, that was accidental thing. And initially, just after the launch, we thought that the UK gonna be our primary market. And I even went to live to London I used to live there for a while, and there were kind of a lot of limitations. Nobody actually wanted to talk to me because I have zero connections there. I don't know anyone. I have no social network there, etc. But at the same time, it opened a lot of other opportunities. We saw that, okay, there is no way to sell directly for our end customers. So how can we build the product which sells itself? And where there is no human interaction, where it doesn't matter where you're physically located, who your parents are, what accent do you have, and all those things. So again, just one example, the same situation, like limitations and great opportunities, which I'm kind of super happy now because we are having almost 14,000 paying customers. It wouldn't be possible to visit all of those customers and to sell them directly. So.
And capital-wise, like if you ever wanted to attract $1 zillion, would the givers of the $1 zillion care if you're in Vilnius or not?
We have never raised. So I believe numbers talk, and all your previous experience talk. So I believe and we tried to raise at a very early stage. And everybody was saying that we are stupid because email is, it's done. It's sorted out. Email is so old school. There are chatbots. There are, something in the future, conversational commerce and all those trends, which were.
Well, you also have SMS, so.
Yeah, SMS, which is and SMS, once we launched Omnisend, like almost 7 years ago, SMS seemed to be dead as a channel for communication with customers. And it's living its renaissance in the past couple of years. And it's like super highly effective. But, and some things has changed because SMS was seen as a really spam tool because you cannot unsubscribe from SMS easily. Now you can do it. And that's just a small technological implementation of just opt-out, easy to opt-out thing, brought them back as a highly effective channel. And like to capital. So back in the days, I believe it's if you are in Silicon Valley, if investors know you and you have already a few failed startup attempts, that means that you have learned something. It's going to be just way easier to raise capital for sure. And in the early days, currently, the potential investors don't care a lot at all. And we kind of get so many interest. We see so much interest and so many emails. I'm really spammed by the potential investors currently.
But then what's stopping you from raising all the zillions of monies?
We kind of in 2019 we have tripled our revenue. In 2020 we're doubling our revenue. So that's a pace which we're happier with. And as long as we can keep this pace without, diluting ourselves and getting external capital, so we prefer continuing this way.
Up to IPO or like since there should be an end goal and exit strategy. For usual reasons.
Yes.
Yay.
We believe one day we're going to be an exit event. Yeah. No, any other liquidation event, but we had like good proposals to sell the company like 12 months ago, a few of them, and as kind of like 2019 was sell Omnisend topic. 2020 is we would like to invest into you topic. So as I believe we're a bit too large for smaller companies to be acquired, but not big enough to be acquired by Oracles, Googles of the world. So so there will be a liquidation event someday. But
early employees are sort of waiting for the exit event, I guess.
Sorry?
Early employees, they want to capitalize their stock.
No, I don't think so. We have never promised that it will be kind of a short-term play. And we are enjoying the journey. And since we don't see kind of fundamental threats or uncertainties in the market, in opposite, we see kind of a lot of opportunities in the market as we're serving e-commerce. E-commerce is booming. Retention marketing, which I'm mainly serving, is becoming more and more important because of acquisition is mainly dominated by, it's a oligopoly, Facebook, Google, prices are going up. But more and more businesses start to understand that they have to work with my existing customer base. I have to retain them, and I have to, instead of like first conversion, actually what they have to care about is life cycle and lifetime value of my customers. So we're kind of serving the industry, which is comfortable to be at the moment. Yeah. So getting to your question, so there is no very specific plan, and last year then we had those offers, which I mean they were really life-changing offers for founders, for early employees who have kind of got their shares, their options executed. So. So we had to answer ourselves some questions. So are we okay to continue the same journey for, let's say, another 7 years with the same team, with same founders, leadership, etc.? And once we answered that we enjoy the journey itself, and that's okay to continue for another 5, 7, maybe 10 years. So it became just way easier to make a decision and to.
Yeah, I have a myriad of more questions, but Paulius, I guess back to you.
I would like to, get back a bit because Rytis mentioned that he never raised. So Omnisend was purely built on your own investments.
So we kind of technically did raise. So probably kind of we are bootstrapped currently, but at the early stage we have raised 160,000 euros, which is not that small amount in Baltics or even in Europe for a seed stage. But we have raised from business angels, not institutional investors, and we did it in the form of convertible notes. So we had an opportunity to pay back them, and instead of converting them to shares, just treat it as a debt and pay back with an interest. So as we got to the profitability early enough, we used this opportunity, and instead of diluting ourselves, we paid it as a debt.
So you bought out them, right? You don't have
we
them
bought out
anymore. Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple investors who kind of at that stage when we came to a maturity date, we just offered our conditions either to join as investors or we're gonna buy you out. So a couple of folks stayed with us, and but it didn't dilute us much. It's kind of minor stakes.
Okay, so coming from the past, this if I understand, because we're here, I kind of find out what it takes to build up a startup which works, which is hiring 101st person employee within, how was it, 7 years, right?
6.5, yeah.
6.5 years, yeah, which is really impressive. So one thing, right, is don't have an idea. Do practical means, right? And graduate as a politician.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
that's totally different story,
It's different. I mean, idea. It's, and again, don't take me wrong. I mean, idea is important, but I don't believe the importance is overestimated usually. But, idea is everything. If you have a great idea, it's gonna just boom. Just introduce, and everybody will need it. Will love my product. Sometimes it happens, but it's outliers. Those are outliers.
When did you get to that? I mean, because in the very first businesses, probably you were starting with the business ideas, right? There's postcards, planting trees and selling in California. So it's kind of it's a regular story, a regular story of a story.
Yeah, that's true. But you live, you learn. So and those were the lessons which we have learned. So that. The idea is good, and I still believe the idea is good, but we were executing it purely. So that was the reason to fail. That was the reason to fail in my first startup attempt.
So this was actually the failures which taught that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Was there some particular one which you would like to share with us?
So kind of tests first, which I have mentioned, that like planting trees and those eco postcards and social network of environment friends, let's call them as this. So that was one of the case. I believe the idea was good and still good, but in implementation was not good.
Mm-hmm.
The second like startup attempt, which we can jump into that was, I believe that product is still a bit alive. It's IQ Pulse. It's interactive polling tool for events, physical events, when someone is on the stage and you want to interact with the audience. So it was a failure as well. So the key lesson I have learned from that was that there are need to have products or services, and there are nice to have products or services. There are vitamins or painkillers. In that case, that was just nice to have. Free version adoption was great. We had many free users, etc. But once we just asked to pay like $10 per month, which is nuts. I mean, nothing for event organizers, but nobody was willing to pay that because it's just nice to have. And I mean, it's just too expensive for me. I don't perceive that much value of paying $10 per month. So that was kind of another great lesson, that you have to find the product, the service, which is solving monetizable customer pain. The pain, which for the resolution of that pain, somebody would be willing to pay you immediately. And you create more value when you actually ask for a product or service to be paid. Yeah, so that was probably the key lesson I have learned from the second failure.
Was this process with your co-founder together with Omnisend, developing an idea, working on this, finding out what is going to be your business together, right? Sharing the dream period, and then going over to some specific ideas. Was this process, some kind of fixed, or was this kind of, natural for you? You were just sitting, sharing ideas and going through this? Because as I feel here, there are some kind of set of things which were important to you both, while deciding what you're going to do next or what you're going to do together. And I'm just wondering if it was, a book you read or,
No, that was like very organic, and it, as what Omnisend is, it was a spin-off. So once we launched, and it took us 2 years after the launch to really understand for what our customers would be willing to pay, and ways actually their pain is so after the launch, we kind of continue running our main businesses and funding partially Omnisend, like startup attempt at that time or venture. So that was kind of an organic process. And as I say, I mean, it took us 24 months to understand and then to see and to prove ourselves that, okay, there is a product market fit. And only then we ditched our main businesses, our previous main businesses, running agencies, and only then we kind of started working full time on Omnisend. So although the product is in the market 6.5 years, but we are working 100% on that only for like 4.5 years.
You mentioned several times that it has taken you 2 years to find the product market fit. How did you know that it was a product market hit and not a product market fit and not a sudden spike, for example, of sales?
That's a very good question. You just start feeling but numbers show you. So basically, adoption and retention of your customers and willingness to pay. Those things would show you. So, and I believe that retention is the key metric for identifying if there is a product market.
And retention as in monthly payments or
yes, yes. Yeah, we are pure play SaaS model. That means that our customers are paying us on a monthly basis, month over month. We just have a credit card data and we charge on a monthly basis. And so if they keep using our service, that means that we create value for them and they're willing to continue paying for that. So,
but how do you know which subset of the features are they paying for?
So that's another thing and another story. And up until today, we have different. It's everlasting process to identify what kind of value do you create for what kind of customers. So identifying your ideal customer profile, identifying personas in that ideal customer profile. There are different personas of your customers. For persona A, you are creating that value. For persona B, you're creating another value. So talking to customers, that's the best way to identify that. Analyze data you have, and like their usage data, and then talking to them. That's the best way to learn from the early days up until today. Yeah, and I believe forever, as long as we are in the business. Your customers tell you a lot.
So now, as you mentioned, the main focus is United States of America, and people are fired globally. You say UK, Ireland, and Morocco even. So what about that dream of yours, that sun never sets and within your customers, right? Within your paying customers' offices. Are there any plans to expand towards the other part, which is, with the sun shining while US sleeps?
Yeah, so we have at least one paying customer from 130 countries.
Okay.
So yeah, it's already. We have customers in New Zealand, in Australia, and in Singapore. So that's the reality already, and we do provide 24/7 support, like tier 1 support, and we have like salespeople working in different time zones to cover entire globe, to provide the ability for our potential customers or existing customers to get help whenever they need it. But kind of US is our major market, but we are operating globally, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you have an online store, we create value for you, and it's just just open an account, sign up. It's like 7 minutes to start sending either automated campaigns or manual emails or text messages. So
okay. Bit of advertisement too.
Sorry?
A bit of advertisement too, like
yeah, sure. So
automated. You have to do that. You have to do that. Yes.
Yeah, sure. But we are in the space of advertising. So
yes.
we are a marketing product, but we have a vision, and our mission of our company is really to make marketing relevant. That's what we are willing to do, because once you do data-based marketing, once you do automated marketing, it empowers you to send much more relevant messages for customers, the messages they are willing to receive, and to decrease the level of intrusive messages in general, as in ads, to decrease the level of spam, which just bulk sending for people, for Lego, Polus, who are not interested in something at all, but we get signals from Polus, get signals from Lego, Rytis, identify what kind of content is really relevant for them at this point. What exactly products have you been browsing? What are your buying cycles? If you bought something 1 year ago, which usually is being replaced after 1 year, so maybe this is a time to send you a special offer.
Do you feel any changes in the business within 2020 already? Because there's, in many kinds of ways, this year was different for all of us.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. So. In our field, as I said, we are lucky enough, or even like super lucky, to be serving the industry which is benefiting from COVID. So e-commerce is booming, and online sales are booming. So many businesses finally migrating online. So how do we understand and see commerce or retail? So we used to think that in 7 to 10 years perspective, there will be no e-commerce or no brick and mortar traditional retail. There will be just commerce or retail, how we call it. And as customers, we'll be choosing how we are preferring to consume things and to buy things, where in physical stores, online, on social media, via text messages, doesn't matter. So COVID is really accelerating those processes, and I believe now it's kind of 5 to 7 years perspective instead of 10 years.
So mainly this doubled or the doubled growth, right, is due to the COVID or close to?
All combined, I believe. Yeah, COVID helps. COVID for us.
And previous year was tripled, right?
Yes.
In sales.
Yes.
Okay.
But the smaller you are, the easier to have those growth numbers. Yeah.
Did you have to invent any special solutions like this year? Like, did the market change in a way that you had to modify a product because the way people sell stuff is different this year?
Kind of not very much, but probably kind of the main trend of this year, which is opposite to what it used to be in the previous years. We see that our customers who had already online stores, who had already sustainable businesses and were in the market for already a while, they grow a lot. It's not that easy for newbies to get into the market. They have challenges, and I would say in the previous years we saw kind of more and more players coming to the market, and not a bit more conservative growth of the existing ones. So comparing to this year. So this year, and I believe this is a sign of crisis, people and customers and consumers are willing more to buy from the brands they already know, they already trust, they have already tried and experienced, because they're a bit more conscious about wasting money and spending. So instead of just making more spontaneous purchases from the brands they don't know, they prefer buying from the brands they already are familiar and they trust.
Okay.
And I believe it's gonna continue. And the second trend is, of course, which every business is facing, the challenges, all the forced remote work, forced all those things. So definitely our business have the same challenges everyone does, and no doubt you have to adopt. So we're lucky enough for what we were already partially distributed, although we have some physical offices, but there are a lot of people working remotely as well. So some of the practices were in place, but for those who used to work in the office to adopt to the new reality, to new environment, it's a bit challenging. So, but nothing super exceptionally here for us as for other businesses globally.
Do you have more time today than you used to like a year ago? I mean, you've been you've probably been traveling a lot, right?
Yes.
Many customers, many countries. Today, I suppose you travel a lot less.
Yes, a lot.
So does this give additional time? Do you feel like in some way you got a gift?
No, I've got the same time, and you know what I miss? Like, really being honest. So I miss, which is weird enough, but what I realized once traveling, especially in long haul flights, trying like Europe to United States, which was a usual direction for me, you spend 24 hours or something alone. I mean, surrounded by many people in the airports and in planes, but the people you don't care about, the people you don't know. And it's actually the time which you spend with yourself. A very good time for thinking, for strategic thinking, and all of those things. And now it's a bit different. That you kind of a cycle of office, colleagues, family, friends, and again. And so the time I have is exactly the same. It's just distributed differently, and there are limitations, for us. In 2020, we had 50 events planned for the year of 2020 to attend, like trade shows, conferences, like both exhibiting, speaking, etc. All of those were definitely canceled. And there are online events which replace some of them, but I believe that the market in general, the world is still defining how to utilize those online events, and they're not. It's good to kind of learn things. Online is even more efficient if you are going to a conference to attend sessions, when online is equally good or even better. But what you lose the social interaction part and the networking part, which, at least for me, being in a business development, I spend like 90% time outside the presentation halls, and then like just networking with people, meeting with people. So that all of that is gone. So yeah. So to your question, I mean, just we all of us have the same time, which is distributed differently.
Okay. So thank you very much. If you would you would care to share, the main 5 things, say, to the guys, the ones that are starting, a startup today, thinking of starting a startup today, despite they have idea or not even, whatever. What would those be? Because there was quite a few companies you were starting yourself, and quite a few successful and unsuccessful too.
Yes. So 5 things. Just do it. That's the first. I mean, this is a slogan of Nike, but I believe this is such a great concept in general. So as I have already said, too many people are thinking that they are having great ideas, but they have never started implementing. So just do it. Learn in an incremental way. Just, start making mistakes as soon as you can, learn from that as fast as you can, and improve things again as fast as you can. So probably that's the first thing. The second thing, I would say, what I have already mentioned as well. So from my personal lessons learned in a hard way. So find the monetizable customer pains. Is your product or service really solving a pain, or is it just nice to have thing? If it's just nice to have thing, you can still be successful, but I believe it's going to be much more difficult for you. Yeah, probably. So those are kind of 2 main things. And the third thing, then, I would say, don't overcomplicate. Don't overcomplicate. Maybe again referring to my lessons about like how important is the name, how important is your domain, all those things. You will sort it out along the way, and like what is my desk in my first office? Like, doesn't matter. We just spend for those who are just about to launch something. We just waste too much time on that. What else? The fourth, focus. I'm a strong believer in focus, and that's very important. It's not easy to do that, but just to pick priorities. I mean, the future will show if it were the right priorities or the wrong priorities. But if you try to kind of to do too much at the same time, you usually fail at accomplishing any of those goals. So kind of picking some fields which you are focusing on, and then double downing or even like triple downing, as I love saying sometimes, on those. So that's the only way to really to get to the executional excellence once you have one direction and you are not disturbing yourself. Yeah, so probably that would be my kind of main. I just shared 4, so hope this is enough.
May I hint you on the 5th? I want to demand the 5th one with a regional focus. Can you motivate other startups from sub-million cities, and what do they do to be relevant on the global arena? Since you've made it, and as you told, you're doing so well, you don't need capital, so that's a decent thing. And apparently, if you're going for the IPO, you'll find many more people will be able to find Vilnius on the map easily, which is decent both for Vilnius and for people discovering new cities. But can you motivate other people, other startuppers who live in smaller cities? How do they win?
Referring to my second point, find the monetizable customer pain. Solve pain for your customers. And then they will not care of where actually you are based, where you're located, what language do you talk, and what movies do you watch? They don't care about that. It doesn't matter. if you are solving their pains, if you help their businesses to grow, if you help them to live a better life, it's a B2C product. So I believe this is the most important thing, and then you can do it from anywhere. Kind of practical aspect on that, and on that is again from kind of smaller cities. I believe the internet is just really a great thing, and then you have to think about the product, and the product has to be the best salesman, the best support manager, and everything. So kind of building a really easy to use great product is very important as well. And it's again what helps you, because mainly if you are focusing on kind of enterprise level customers, it will be much more difficult for you to find the paths to their offices, to make relationship with the decision makers who are based in London's and New York's of the world or Singapore's. So I believe kind of serving SMBs and solving their pains is the way to go.
Yeah. So eventually, we're kind of out of time already, but still, I would like to ask this question anyways. Eventually, when you are kind of, seeing this, the end of the road with Omnisend together, because you said, there's going to be an exit someday, somehow. I know you're not a fan of ideas, but do you have any? What would be the next startup?
Polish, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of ideas, and there are so many ideas. But okay. I'm referring to my point of focusing. Don't disturb yourself with ideas. That's very important. So there are the ideas kicking your head like every lovely day, but you have just to resist them. Resist them, because otherwise you're gonna distract yourself. So I don't know. It's too early. It's too early.
It never was like, this I have to try, this I have to do. There's a need for this in the market, no?
There's a need for marketing automation services for e-commerce.
Yeah, you're too focused.
Yeah, so there is a need. And again, maybe I can refer to like the same exercise we were going through once we had the good offers to sell the company. Yeah. So there was another question which we have asked ourselves. So what is easier to, as at that point, like kind of Omnisend was around like 9 million in ARR. Now we are kind of getting close to doubling it. So another question was, is it easier to build something from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 10? Or to 2 at least. So we kind of replied ourselves that it's easier from 1 to 10 than from 0 to 1. So again, not distracting ourselves with new ideas, see a lot of opportunities and a lot of potential in our current market and just focusing on them.
Paulus, since you have like 2-ish minutes left, shall we play in the game of what have we learned today? And I can start. So what I have learned today is that you haven't mentioned MailChimp once, right? And you've been repeating like focus, know who you are, know who your customers are, know what they're paying for. So that sort of was my inspiration and main learning. Paulus, what have you learned today?
I would say exactly the same probably, except the MailChimp. But the focus part is kind of seemingly, is the dominating part. In what Rytis has communicated here. And another one which I really loved, is that there are very many different ideas, flowing around, popping up, kind of every half an hour, every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, in our heads. And if we kind of start running, after each of those, it's going to be a killer. So the idea here is that, the idea has to be necessary to the customer. To my point of view, in many cases, many startups start to, ask this question a bit too late.
Yeah, I do agree. And they just kind of, they convince themselves that they have a highly needed, because we ask our friends, we ask their moms, and we say, yes, go for it. It's a brilliant thing. Definitely. But ask someone whom you don't know to pay for it, and then you will have a very good litmus test.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you very much, Rytis, for sharing. It was an hour I didn't notice.
Thanks for inviting. Great to talk to you guys.
Thank you very much. And we are recording this, right, Oleg? And,
yes, in a second I will stop the recording. So 3, 2, 1.